So Joey and I are talking one of the 29 times we talk a day, and we're talking about something totally different, totally random, and out of absolutely thin air. We're talking like Ashley Olsen circa 2008 thin air. What do you say? Tell them now. I know you know. Tell them now.
I said, did you know that Claire Danes was originally cast as Rose in Titanic?
Were we talking about movies?
No.
Were we talking about Kate Winslet? Were we talking about Leonardo DiCaprio?
No.
You all, this was out of nowhere. My brother and ADHD. Get medicated.
Yes, we are carrying over our neurodivergence into 2025. Don't you worry.
Don't worry, we're here. Happy New Year, down bitches. How long do you say Happy New Year? Like how many days into the new year?
I think that this episode is appropriate and we can get it out of the way.
Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to 2025 and whatever that brings. I hope you had a happy, safe holiday. I hope everyone in your family got along, didn't drive you crazy. Welcome to I Think Not. I forgot to say that. Look we're starting 2025 off right.
Yeah, what did you do for New Year's?
I just went to a friend's house. Yeah. I went to Cliff and Regina's and we just chilled and hung out. What did you do? Oh, you went to a rave.
I went to a rave in San Francisco and I got a DM from someone from a DB named Yuli. She was like, I cannot believe you were there. And I'm like, if you ever see me at a rave, come say hello and hug me. I can't promise that I'll make sense because I might be a little high, but
I might be on ketamine, but it doesn't matter. I love the spectrum of the invitation of a rave. That's just you and Julie. I feel like I don't know.
Yuli.
I don't know.
Her name is Yuli. Also, lots of people like raves. They're so fun, and you can go stone cold sober and just dance your face off. Also, speaking of New Year's Eve, I just want to say, New Orleans, it just breaks my heart. And to the families of those victims, I'm just sending so much love. I mean, we can't do the thoughts and prayers shit. It doesn't do anything. But I just want to say, I love New Orleans. I love the people of New Orleans. They deserve better than this. And just be careful. I mean, well, what can you do? You can't live in fear, but it just breaks my heart that this happened in my hometown.
We had a lot of people reaching out, making sure Joey was okay, making sure that his family was okay. So thank you so much. And that is 2025. Not off to a great start, but we're here to make you laugh a little bit, make you cry, make you think, and whatever. This is I Think Not, the podcast that you come to for us to recap your favorite true crime TV shows. We are covering the last episode of Web of Lies, and over on the Patreon, we're covering a fantastic show called How I Caught My Killer, and I know it's fantastic because I noted that show today instead of this show, but that's for another story. So if you want to hear that episode that I noted today, you can find it on the Patreon.
Listen tomorrow where you can find it. I love that your cold open is giving me shit about ADHD and you noted the wrong episode.
The hypocrisy is real, but I'm accountable. This is an accountable podcast. I am an asshole. Also, I forgot to tell you, I'm Ellen Marsh, and that's Joey Taranto. Asshole, ADHD, but we love you, and we got good hearts.
We do. And if you are looking for a little bit of extra something from us and you want a little more community or you want us to scream more in your ears, go check us out over at Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, you can get 4 bonus episodes. And we also have watch parties. We have
paint parties, merch boxes. We have ad-free options. It's all kinds of stuff. Whatever your budget is, it's there. We're going to have fun. This past Sunday, we just watched Miss Congeniality. We just watch whatever movies we like, and then you get to come too. So
we thrust them upon you.
Anyway, lots of fun over there. We're happy to be here. We're happy to start a new year with our Down Bitch community. Shall we get to the episode, my love?
Yes, we should.
Web of Lies, Season 2, Episode 4, Honey Trap.
Well, we are in San Jacinto, California. It is February of 2011, and we hear about 23-year-old Eddie Leal, who works as a personal trainer and amateur boxer.
Put him up! Put him up! Which one are you first? I'll fight you both together if you want.
Yeah, that would be me as an amateur boxer. Actually, I have a question for you.
What?
If you were an amateur boxer at 23 years old, remember you at 23 years old, I want you to give yourself an intro into your own match. Let's say we're fighting. You and I at 23 are having a boxing match. Would never happen. I want you to give me your introduction.
Okay, so intro 23-year-old me?
Yeah.
Okay. In this corner, weighing 101 pounds, and 14 of those are in her boobs that were much bigger than they are now, Helen Marsh. Helen is the champion of masking insecurity with comedy and hooking up with boys in public bathrooms. Let's get ready to rumble. She's got very, very, very thin eyebrows. Should go along with those gangly arms. She's in her candy shoes because she loved Jenny McCarthy. Let's get ready to rumble. How'd I do?
What an introduction. You threw everything in there except the kitchen sink. My God. Everything and the kitchen sink. That was good. That's good.
Okay, you do yours.
Okay. In this corner, weighing 102 pounds, soaking wet, a man who has to run around the shower just to get wet. He also has overplucked eyebrows. And razor-thin hair that makes him look like Claire Danes in every movie she ever made in the arts. He may be thin, but he's also annoying. Get ready for Joey, the gangly-armed, monkey-armed, irregular-armed Taranto.
Da-da-da. Of course, when you said in this corner, you know what I thought, right?
Yeah.
Ladies, gentlemen, and those that yet to make up their minds, hey, in this corner.
Exactly. Sorry, if you're a new listener, that was Joey in Kinky Boots. He sang that song in one take. That is going to be the story I tell at your funeral, because obviously you're dying first, because...
You'll kill me.
All right. So we see reenactment Leal family doing reenactment breakfast things. And Eddie is 23 years old. He lives with his adorable mom, Celia, and his father, Ralph, as well as his brother, Gilbert, who's 19 years old. And Gilbert is here.
Did somebody say Gilbert?
Gilbert? I didn't even think. Yes, we did say Gilbert. Hi, Gilbert.
This is the perfect excuse for me to stop by and tell you what I got for Christmas.
What did you get?
I only have a minute. I have to go. I've got places to be. I got a thong made entirely out of pearls.
Oh, what do you use that for, Gilbert?
I stole it from your mother's house. I'll have to ask her. Bye.
I love how Gilbert has a really tight turnaround. Gilbert is fucking busy. Do you know? I didn't even clock that. That's so funny. Gilbert, we missed you. Bye. Gilbert, not the goblin, is here.
Yep.
And he was just explaining how kind-hearted his brother was, how sweet, and like kind of a little naive, which feels like a setup, but he was.
Yeah. And Mama Celia is also here, and she's like, look, I wanted big things for my sons. We didn't have a ton of money, but we had a lot of love in our house. And you know what? Let me tell you, that makes up for a lot. It really does.
Yep. You can't take it with you, but people will remember how you made them feel, right? I mean, listen, Papa Ralph had a landscaping business, and Celia worked at a grocery store. They had enough to get by, but this is part of the story that I think a lot of people listening will empathize with. They didn't have a lot of extra money, but the money they did have, they put towards Eddie's dream of boxing. And he wanted to be a pro boxer. So every extra bit of money went to that. And I know so many families that are like this because these extracurriculars, the dance, the sports, the ice skating, the traveling, I know so many families, it honestly chokes me up, that do so much to allow their kids' dreams to come true, to like fulfill their passions. When they were explaining that, it just got me. That is such an American story, you know, like the dad that woke up at 4 a.m. to take their kids skiing and then they make it to the Olympics. And I don't know, it's a very common story. It really got me.
Also, I think it's so sweet for any parent who is like, hey, I want you to figure out what's going to make you happy, what job you want, what that thing is, that goal that's going to make you happy. And I'm not going to pressure you to become anything you don't want to be. In fact, I will support you in it financially if I can. I think that is beautiful.
Unlike your parents being like, Joey, take that mop off your head. Stop singing Barbra Streisand in the backyard. You're embarrassing.
From a young age, Eddie always wanted to go pro. Whether it was to be a champion or not, it didn't really matter. My dad gathered up some money, cleaned out the garage, and made it a gym.
Well, the Leal family supported Eddie so much, they converted their garage into a boxing gym. Like, this was Eddie's dream. The family wanted to support him. And something you should know about San Jacinto is it's predominantly Hispanic blue-collar workers. But there are also a lot of gangs in this area, especially in the Leal family neighborhood. So the neighborhood kids would come train in this makeshift gym, right? Which really was like a legitimate gym. I say makeshift, but they tricked it out. And it really was great because it kept these kids from getting swept up in gang culture. You know what I mean? Like,
and it was intentional from the family, from the Leal family. Like, they would open the door of their garage and they'd be like, hey, come on in, come check it out. Like, they were actively trying to get young kids involved in not just boxing, but like being fit and everything as a way to be good members of the community.
Yeah, just give them an option because, you know, a lot of kids get into gangs when they're quite young, like
13?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And here's the thing, the local gangs did not like this. And they would drive by the Leal's garage often. They could see what was going on. And, you know, gangs offer a sense of family to kids who don't have that.
Yeah. And
what Eddie and his father, Ralph, did was offer them an alternative. It was a different kind of family, and the kids, they were thriving.
Yeah. Well, Sergeant Bob Epps is here, and this man, he just burrowed into my heart throughout this whole episode. He's here from the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, which I'll tell you more about it later. He doesn't work there anymore, okay? But he spoke about Eddie and his brother Gilbert and how much energy they put into the community because they wanted to be strong Hispanic leaders. It was important to them. How are you inspiring the youth of America, Joseph, besides teaching them that your way of life is a sin?
I avoid them.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I think it's best I stay out of their business. You stay out of mine, I stay out of yours. We got enough going on in 2025. That's going to be, I'm going to continue that. It's going to apply, my motto will apply to children now. Mind your business is 2025.
Okay. And children, you just get a little infant baby. Mind your business.
17-year-old Manuel Guzman is a high school dropout. He's hoping boxing can give him a focus and keep him safe.
They were just doing everything right. There were kids who were kind of like on the brink. There was this 17-year-old named Manuel Guzman. He had dropped out of school and he wanted to learn how to box, and their door was always open. Now, Papa Ralph said that he grew up in L.A., kind of a rough part of L.A., and he always wanted to have his kids have a totally different life than he had. Now, they don't go into detail, which is fine, but they kind of said he was don't make the same mistakes I did kind
They
of
said
dad.
he was in gangs.
Yeah, they don't elaborate further.
Yeah.
They will later.
I'm just saying, what more do you need? He was like, I was in gangs. Don't do what I did. I was in gangs. What do you want me to say? One time, I tripped a man because he looked at me funny, and he was older, and I tripped him.
Well, they didn't say, he was incarcerated for any time. They
Ellen, I think that it isn't...
Did they say he ran with gangs?
Yes, they said he was in a gang. I think it's implied.
What's implied? That he was in a gang? What happened? Did they say gangs? Because I
yes,
felt
my
like
love. They said that he was in
I thought
a gang.
They said
Look at me and stop talking. He was in a gang. They said it clear as day. The man was in a gang.
Well, some gangs are good.
Okay, name one.
Cool Emma. So, So there, I feel like clarification was
You know what? I
needed.
take my words back. When Papa Ralph was saying stay out of them gangs, he meant cool in the gang.
See? How would you know when to celebrate if Kool and the Gang weren't here? Anyway, here we go.
Ralph grew up in L.A., Hispanic kid in the 80s. Life's tough. He had told kids, keep your nose clean, keep out of trouble. Ralph and Eddie had everything to prove. They weren't proud. They definitely weren't materialistic.
They really just wanted to set an example for these kids, and the only reason that they did it was out of the goodness of their hearts. That's it. So Eddie was busy training and mentoring these kids. It didn't really leave him with much of a social life. He wasn't really dating because it was hard to go out and meet women.
It's always hard to go out and meet women. We're very tired. He was meeting people online, which is totally normal. He spent a lot of time on Facebook, and he didn't have a girlfriend. And of course, his parents, like typical immigrant parents, so you have a boyfriend. Like the amount of times my grandmother asked me that over the years, I'm like, Grandma, I finally told my grandmother I was lesbian. Anyway, just to get her off my back. And then she started saying, so you have a girlfriend? I was like, great. The one non-homophobic Italian grandmother, and I get her. Okay. Reenactment Eddie tells his reenactment mother, listen, when I have a girlfriend, you'll definitely know. But he says he's looking for a pretty girl. I was like,
There you go.
We can raise that bar, Eddie. That's fine.
So one day, Eddie gets a friend request on Facebook from a woman he doesn't know named Rebecca Santiago. She's beautiful, she's 21, she's single, and she lives in San Jacinto. So Eddie is thinking,
I want a diamond ring, I want some bracelets and everything. Daddy, you better get the best for me.
now Rebecca is seemingly straight-laced like him, like no drugs, no gangs. It's sort of a good fit, right? So Eddie's intrigued.
So Mama Celia is talking about how she wants her son to get married and all these things. But most of all, she's just a worried mother. I mean, boxing is scary. Do you ever watch boxing or like Ultimate Fighter? What's it called? Ultimate Frisbee?
Yeah, after when I was in Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, the whole cast would go and we watch, what's it called?
UFC.
UFC. Yeah, and it's just, they're very violent.
Terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. And Mama Celia is just like me. She's like, I don't even like watching. And Mama Celia is a down bitch because she says this.
I never liked watching my son box. He asked me why, and I answered that if he ever took me, I was going to take my shoe off and climb into the ring to hit his opponent, and he was going to be disqualified.
I get it. So Mama Celia was like, I want him to find a nice woman, and I don't want him to be hit in his pretty little face.
Yeah, for sure. I would not want to watch someone I love put themselves through that. I mean, there was a video I saw of this girl. Her eye is swollen shut. Her lip is busted. Her whole face is bruised. And they're like, how do you feel? And she's like, well, honestly, I had a great time. I'm like, you look like Popeye the Sailor Man. What are you talking? But they love it. And listen, do it. Go do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Now, Eddie and Papa Ralph's garage gym gets a lot of support from the community because people are desperate to keep their kids out of gangs. And the thing about that is whereas it makes these parents happy, the gangs are not too happy about that. They would often pull up to the garage door, which was, just a way to intimidate Eddie, but Eddie did not back down. At times there were words exchanged and stare downs. It was getting very heated, but you're talking about a lot of dudes with a lot of pride.
Yeah. Did you see Reenactment Gilbert?
Yes, I did see him.
So they have these reenactment actors that are sort of like the gang guys, and then we have the Leal family.
Yeah.
Gilbert, who is Eddie's younger brother, is clearly the producer's young cousin because that actor's name was not like Manuel Gonzalez. That actor's name was like Mandy Goldstein. Like, it was so funny watching him because he's like, hey, why don't you go find some chicas? And don't be all loco over here.
He literally said chicas. Like
he
was
said chicas.
Yeah, like he was plucked right out of the ensemble of The Fiddler on the Roof. It was very, hey guys.
No, he walks up and he goes, hey, essays. I was like, oh my Lord in Schmoyle, please. Like somebody, not essays.
Yeah.
Oh, my stars. Listen, Web of Lies, I'm not coming for you. You've actually been a terrific show, but your casting, see me. I have some notes.
This is Canada. So all of this time, while all of this is happening, Eddie is still chatting with Rebecca on Facebook, right? And she's like, I like that you're an actual fighter. You know, they joked that these gang dudes couldn't actually fight. They just talked a lot of shit and they had guns. But when Eddie asked Rebecca to go out on a date, she's like, oh, maybe sometime.
Yeah, super cagey.
Yeah, shy. And it was strange, but Eddie was like, I can work with shy.
Right.
With so much gang activity in the neighborhood, the Leal family is always happy to have the cops close at hand. Sergeant Bob Epps regularly comes down to train and keep an eye on things.
But that also kind of made the Leal family feel a little safe considering the amount of gang activity that was in the area. Now, Bob Epps, I love this man. He is just the sweetest thing.
He is.
He was training for something called the Battle of the Badges, which is basically a law enforcement charity boxing event. Here's the thing. This comes straight from Sergeant Bob Epps's mouth. He's like, in these types of areas, I get it. I'm not your friend. Cops are not your friends in these kind of communities because, he's well aware that there are people in this area who have not had good experiences with cops. There are lots of people who haven't good experiences with cops. They see them in the streets. They've seen them in their homes. Some of their families are currently incarcerated.
Yeah.
And Bob totally gets that.
Yeah. Bob also sees how much Eddie and Ralph give back to the community. And I think that he understood that all of them working together in some sort of way really just benefits the community, Yeah. So Bob was often at this gym training, right?
With other cops as well. They all kind of used it. It was a cool, rugged feeling gym.
Yeah.
How you go to CrossFit and they try and look all rugged, but they're not.
Yeah, how's your CrossFit going?
And it's air conditioned.
So here's the thing. As soon as the cops would leave the gym, gang members would come by and taunt Eddie, and Eddie wouldn't back down, right? And his mother was terrified because it was a big problem just waiting to happen. Well, one morning, Eddie gets up. He goes outside, and his car is gone. And he asks his younger brother, Gilbert, about it. He's like, have you seen it? And Gilbert's like, just being a younger brother, he's like, bro, it probably is stolen. Leave me alone. Let me eat my Cheerios. I'm like,
probably one of the essays stole it. I don't know. Gracias. So
Buenas noches. I am having cereal.
Hey, mi hermano. What's up? What are the hot jams? Sorry, this is Canada.
Como estás? You guys want to listen to some Alanis Morissette essays?
They're just trying so hard. They're in the back beady beady bamba. It's so bad. It's just Gilbert, though. All of the other actors are of perfect ethnicity.
Yeah, bless this man's heart. So Eddie is like, fuck, and he calls the cops, right? Well, it turns out that in the middle of the night, some gang members stole Eddie's car. They got caught with it in Long Beach. How does he know that they were in Long Beach? Well, because the Long Beach Police Department calls Eddie to be like, hey, sorry about your car. It got totaled last night when we were chasing these guys. Do you want to press charges? And Eddie is like, now listen, that's a big deal. You know what I mean? Because now you're drawing a real line in the sand.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't back down from these guys or let them think I'm afraid of them. So he's like, yes, I do want to press charges. When you say totaled, how totaled do you mean?
When I was younger, I used to think totaled meant done.
Yeah.
But they can actually declare a car totaled even if it's kind of fixable. I mean, by some intents and purposes, my Jetta is probably totaled. And I'm still driving that baby around like it's Christmas.
Though 3 cholos are arrested, only 1 is taken to jail. The Leal family band together and buy a new car for Eddie. They can't let the thugs get the upper hand.
Now, a few nights after his car is stolen, Eddie sees that his new Facebook friend Rebecca has made a post asking if anybody wants to hang. Well, Eddie sees an opportunity, and he's like, hey, I'm down, want to grab a bite or, hang or something? And he doesn't hear anything. He's just waiting. And Mama Celia pops by, and she's like, I could see that he did not want me in his room.
He's like, shh, I'm waiting for a response. I'm waiting for the text message.
Yeah.
So we see the exchange with Rebecca and Eddie, and he's like, did you see my message? And so finally, Rebecca is like, yeah, let's meet up. And Eddie's like, great, let's do something tomorrow. And Rebecca's Randy. Rebecca is like, habana.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, do you have a phone that I can call you on? Rebecca says no. I just did a little like, you know, I love my numbers, my calculations. So this is 2011. Tinder didn't launch until 2012 when we're talking about dating apps. And so when you talk about like the peak of dating app, that's actually where people usually gauge the popularity of online dating. A lot of research will say that it didn't actually peak until 2017. They're on Facebook, right? So the fact that they're like meeting online in 2011, not that weird. But the fact that she doesn't have a cell phone is very curious. Now, I looked this stat up, and in 2011, 83% of adults owned a cell phone, but that did not include the like pay-as-you-go phone. So maybe add another 10% after that.
Sure.
That's 300 million mobile phones in use at that time. So while it's not completely out of the range of possibility, a 21-year-old not having a cell phone in 2011, red flags all over the place for me in hindsight. Did you think that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm also thinking about what I know in 2025 and the leaps and bounds I go to verify people because I've just been catfished enough in my life that I'm like, no.
Yeah. It just, 2011, not having a cell phone just felt very strange to me.
So Rebecca's like, how about we just meet at a local park? It's called Cutting Park. And she asks, hey, how are you going to get there? And Eddie's like, oh, I'm driving there. And she asks, are you coming alone? And he says, yes, of course. So Eddie leaves to go meet Rebecca. He texts his brother Gilbert that he'll be back and he'll see him later. Gilbert was asleep, and he didn't see that text until the next morning.
So Eddie drives to the park to meet Rebecca. And when he gets to the park, he doesn't see anyone. He's like, definitely not this like gorgeous woman that he's going to meet. So he's like, what the fuck? Circles the block, 2-3 times. And then he goes home and he gets back on Facebook. And right as he gets back on, there's a message from Rebecca being like, what happened? I was waiting for you. And he's like, girl, I was circling the park. And then Rebecca with no cell phone was like, well, it was cold, so I went to my friends, but I really want to see you.
And then she says, look, I want to do this. Like, do this. You know what I mean? Like, because she says she wants to sleep with him and asks how quickly he can get there. And Eddie's like, give me 10. I will be at that park.
And it's 2 a.m.
Now, listen.
Yes, my love.
As a man, I have been in this situation where it might be close to 2 a.m., but my penis thinks it's 7 a.m. and I have woken up, and so has my penis. And my penis is saying, we're gonna do this. We're doing it.
You're gonna wake up. You will wake up.
I mean, as somebody who drove to the swamp in a trailer park in the middle of nowhere and had sex with a man at God knows what ungodly hour when I was 19, this tracks.
Eddie's a good guy, but he has a dick. And it's so wild to me. This is a message for the ladies. Men, anyone with the penis, fast forward. You all know we have all the vaginas, right? Like, we gatekeep the pussy. We hold all the power. I have a cross stitch up here that says it. The power of the we hold it all. We have it. It's it. They don't have, you guys. They don't have what we have.
I can hear you.
The next morning was a public holiday, a day when all of us were at home. Breakfast was nearly ready.
Go wake Eddie up.
So we're going to fast forward to the next day. It's Monday, May 30th, 2011, and it's Memorial Day. Mama Cecilia and Papa Ralph are cooking. They have the day off. Little brother Gilbert wakes up and he can smell the feast they're making.
He's like, huevos rancheros. That sounds muy delicioso.
Yeah, he's like, oh, gee, thanks, Mom. Are you making breakfast quesadillas? Mama Celia asks Gilbert, where's your brother? And he's like, right? She's assuming he's sleeping, and she goes up to his room, knocks on the door, no answer. She knocks again, still no answer. Finally, she opens the door, and she sees that Eddie is not there, and his bed has not been slept in, and pretty quickly, Papa Ralph started worrying. So he tries calling Eddie, and his phone goes straight to voicemail.
And so they're like, okay, maybe he went to the gym that he works at to get his paycheck. So they have Brother Gilbert get in his coche and go to the gym and see if he's there. Well, on the way to the gym, Gilbert gets a phone call from his dad. Well, from his dad's number. It was actually a detective.
And the detective says, hi, we are at your home. And we're talking with your parents, and we think you should come home so we can chat. So, of course, Gilbert immediately pulls up to his parents' house where a detective sort of intercepts him and asks him to follow him to his car so he can ask some questions. And what the detective does is asks Gilbert to identify some of Eddie's belongings, which he does. And that's when the detective explains that his brother sadly had been murdered and they are investigating it. And Gilbert was in complete shock. Like, that is not what you're expecting to hear. He ran out of the car, he's hugging his father, and his father's just saying over and over, and they did it. They killed him. They did it.
And Sergeant Bob Epps is here, and he is also breaking down.
I got a phone call.
It's okay, Ralph. It's okay.
This man breaks my heart.
I remember him saying, I hate to be the one to make the call. And nobody else wants to call you because they know how tight you are with Eddie and Ralphie.
Yeah, so even if you're not watching this video, you can hear how much agony this man is in. It's really, it's awful.
I saw Ralph out in the yard on his knees, just screaming and crying.
Bobby, they killed my baby.
They held him and hugged him and cried, and he said they killed my baby.
So they go on to explain that Eddie was shot in his car, and there is a little bit of evidence, but not a lot. There were some fingerprints. Obviously, they don't know whose they are. They did have some bullet casings, and they held out a tiny bit of hope that maybe there were fingerprints on the bullet casings, but they have to piece this all together somehow.
Yeah. And the two lead investigators assigned to this case are Randall Wortman and Deputy DA Daniel Delamon, right? So they check out Eddie's room to try to find any clues. They ask Brother Gilbert, what was Eddie getting up to last night? And Gilbert says, well, he was on his computer the last I saw him. And so when they open up Eddie's computer, the first thing they see is Rebecca Santiago's Facebook profile. And the chat window is still open. So very quickly they can tell, oh, he was going to meet a girl.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's not in the forefront of their mind right now. That is just sort of pinpointing his location. They immediately are going to go back to the guys who stole Eddie's car just a week before. Well, they've all been released from jail. So, of course, they think this is retaliation because they pressed charges against this guy. So when they looked them up individually, not only did they all have a bunch of convictions, they were all labeled in the system as gang members.
But here's the insane part. All three of these men's alibis checked out thoroughly. It was not them. They were not involved in Eddie's death. So meanwhile, Deputy Delamon is trying to get a hold of the IP address that's connected to Rebecca Santiago's Facebook profile. And that takes a few days. But he eventually gets a home address for Rebecca Santiago. And this address was within literally 100 yards of where Eddie was found dead.
What is a yard?
I don't know.
Is this a football field? Like, is that close? How close is that? I'm not kidding. Joey.
I'm looking it up.
No, I already Googled it. I said, how far is 100 yards? Hand to God, it said 90 meters. What in the Queen's English? What the fuck is a meter? Give me a block. Give me a destination. Is it near the Burger King? Can I see 100 yards away? How many paces is that? Do I have to drive a car 100? Do I have to ride a bicycle? How? So then I Googled how many paces is 100 yards. And it says it depends on how fast you walk.
Jesus Lord, my God.
And then it said about 120 to 140 steps. Thank you, you're a wizard, Harry.
All of this just to tell you, you fucking stupid. You are
far
stupid.
Is a yard? I don't want to play football. I just want some dimensions. 100 yards?
Yeah, it wasn't far. How about that?
Oh God, the American education system is pathetic.
It's 100 meters. Is this London? This is New Jersey. Put it in terms I can understand. Jersey terms. It's over there. Over here, over there.
It's right over there.
That's your two options. We don't got meters, we don't got yards. It's over here, over there. What is it? So, meanwhile, investigators go to this home and they knock on the door. Shocked to no one, Rebecca Santiago does not exist. There is no Rebecca. This home is owned by the Guzman? The Guzman family.
It's Guzman.
Okay. This home is owned by the Guzman.
This home is owned by the Guzmans.
It's the Guzmans, okay?
Who wants chili con carne? I'm from California. Everything has Spanish roots, so nobody talks like that in California. So the fact that they are in California with Manny Goldstein just makes it 10
It's
times
Canadians
funnier.
in California.
I know.
Today, you guys, our shoot is in Los Angeles. So Los Angeles.
Guzmans.
Okay, anyway, so they bring all of the family members, except the mother, which they never tell us why.
I know.
To
They
the
were like, you don't look like you're just I don't know.
Whatever you're doing, to the police station to question them, right? Meanwhile, Deputy Delamon is searching every room in this house until he finds a desktop computer in one of the rooms. Well, that room belonged to 17-year-old Manuel Guzman. We mentioned Manuel earlier.
Guzman.
Manuel Guzman. Shut up. I don't want to get hung up on this. So we mentioned Manuel earlier in the episode because he trained with Eddie and Ralph, right? So they bring in computer forensics to check out this computer.
Well, Tony Pilato is here, and he is a computer forensic expert, and he wants to tell us several times.
Yes.
This is the biggest case of his life.
Yeah.
Okay, Tony, we got it.
Yep.
He says it thrice.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, what kind of training do you need to be a forensic computer expert? Because I can find some shit out on the internet.
I don't
and
know.
I could use another title.
You probably need to know what yards are.
You think that's part of it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Give me a first name and a general location, and I'll find out if your boyfriend is cheating on you. Anyway, Tony Pilato notices that Manuel's computer is on. And so because it's on, he's able to do something called a RAM dump.
You know what? I'm not sure what that is, but I don't like the sound of it. Whatever a RAM dump is, can we please find a new name for it? Because that is awful.
Yeah.
What are you doing tonight? I got a RAM dump. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. So while they're RAM dumping,
Mom, I need 10 minutes. This RAM dump is almost done. The what? I'm dumping RAM. Excuse me? The RAM is dumping. If I stop now, I won't get the dump of the RAM. Honey, I don't know what any of that means.
just make me a chicken quesadilla and zip it. What is happening?
You see the video. What do you want to be when you grow up? A RAM dump.
Ian, what would you like to be when you grow up? Hear it.
Oh, God, it's hot in here. Okay, all right. So they take Manuel. I hope you're watching this on YouTube, y'all, because Joey is not right with the Lord.
Back at the station, Detective Wortman interviews 17-year-old Manuel Guzman.
Do you know an Eddie Leal?
Yeah, the name sounds familiar. I think his family has a boxing ring out of their home.
Manuel Guzman is in the interrogation room at the police station, and he is chili con carne. He is calm. He is chill. This is going pear-shaped. Is anyone still listening? So they ask him where he was the night that Eddie was tragically murdered, and he says very plainly, very quickly, very calmly, I was asleep in my room.
Yeah.
And he said, do you know Eddie Leal? And he's like, yeah, I think they have like a at-home boxing ring or something. Now, remember, we mentioned him at the beginning of the episode. He was trying to be a part of that little group. And so he's a minor, and they could only hold him for 6 hours. So though they were very suspicious of him and his RAM dumping, they still have to let him go.
Yeah. Now, listen, they do get some forensics back on the fingerprints found in Eddie's car. Some prints belong to Eddie, some to family members, but there are a set that are mysterious to them, right? And at this point, investigators want to rule out the family involvement, so they're just running their names through the system.
Now, these cops that investigated this case, this story. They're very sweet, and they do a very good job, and they do right by the family. But whenever I am watching a show and I hear things like this...
We were really interested in trying to find out the identity of the person who left the fingerprints.
Were you? Were you? I'm so glad you were interested. Like, I know they were interested. These are not bad cops. These are good cops. I'm just saying sometimes the things they let in, I'm not blaming the cop. I'm blaming the documentary makers.
Oh, I think that these people just are like nervous in front of a camera and they're like,
Totally.
we wanted to check out the fingerprints. And you're like,
our goal was to get the bad guys. That's not on them. They're just cops. Edit that shit out. Make them sound better. Make a reenactment actor do it. No, actually, don't do that because they're terrible. But it's just funny the things that they let slide.
Well, so they're running all the family's names in the systems, right? But when it comes to Papa Ralph, they couldn't really find anything under that name. So one of the detectives calls him. And remember, the police department has a good relationship with the Leal family, right? He calls him and he's like, hey, Ralph, is Ralph your nickname? Because we can't find anything. And he's like, oh yeah, my real name is Gilbert Leal. And girl, this gave me fucking whiplash because I was not ready for this information.
Nor me, baby. So they run his real name, Gilbert, with his date of birth. And out pops a little pop-up that said there was a warrant for Gilbert's arrest back in 1982 in LA County for murder.
And the police are like, what the fuck? Do we have to go and arrest? I think we have to go and arrest him.
Yeah. So the cops show up to the Leal home for a completely different reason because they used to show up for boxing. Then they showed up to help the family figure out what happened to their poor son, Eddie. And now they're there to arrest Papa Ralph.
Yeah, one of the officers who was friends with Ralph sits down with him. They talk for a really long time. And, you know, younger brother Gilbert's like, I couldn't watch my dad get handcuffed. I just couldn't do it. And really, it broke my heart when he said this. When he said this, it was like in the span of a few days, half of my family was gone. And the police are thinking, well, wait a minute. Do we have to consider Ralph as a suspect in his own son's murder?
Right.
I mean, obviously, look, we know that that man loved his son. He was not involved in this. But it's really wild when you don't have too many leads, what you have to consider.
Yep, of course. So he's arrested.
Eddie Leal's father's past has finally caught up with him, but nothing links him to his son's murder.
My dad felt that what happened to my brother, maybe it was karma.
Back to the murder of poor Eddie. They don't have that much right now. So they go back to the investigation of Manuel's computer. And they're asking Tony Perlato, who this is the biggest case of his life, just ask him, when is this coming? He's like, it's coming when it's coming. I don't know. Because
can I just say this? It's not what he said. Tony Perlato, Plato, Picotado, whatever his name is, this man says this.
When they ask me how long these exams take, my answer is anywhere between 2 and 52 weeks.
Sir, that is a huge difference. That's like me going to get my oil changed, and they're like, cool, this could take anywhere between 1 and 572 hours. Enjoy this back issue of Marie Claire. What the fuck?
Well, okay, here's the deal. Let's put this in perspective. When you've looked through an ex's phone because you knew you were looking for something, but you didn't know exactly where to look, you know, the possibilities are endless. First, you got to start with the texts, then you go to the DMs, then maybe go to the internet history or the Notes app. Don't forget the Notes app. You don't know what kind of shit is in there. Sometimes you find what you're looking for in Uber receipts in their emails for another podcast. But you know that it's there, but you were looking for something, but there's so much information there, you just gotta find it. Trust and believe. I'm gonna find it.
Yes.
It's just gonna take me a minute.
Have I ever mentioned that I am terrified of you? Well,
you should be.
They don't tell us how long it took them. Well, eventually forensics finds solid proof that the messages from Rebecca Santiago's Facebook account came from Manuel's computer. And what's interesting is when they first interviewed Manuel, he made it very clear that no one else used that computer. It was his and only his. So unbeknownst to him at the time, he shot himself in the foot because they now know this is Manuel, but they don't have a confession. They can't prove that Manuel was the one who sent those messages from his computer. And when they showed him Rebecca Santiago's profile, Manuel simply said, I ain't never seen that shit in my life. So they have to dig deeper.
You know, I was thinking about it because they have him dead to rights in terms of being Rebecca, but catfishing someone proves that he got him out of the house. That doesn't prove that he killed Eddie. So I understand how they're like, we know it's this guy, but they have to prove that. They have to, bring it to the prosecutor. The prosecutor has to take it up and then convince the jury. It's compelling, but it's not enough from like an evidentiary standpoint. So I get how like annoying that is because it's like, no, it's this guy, but they still need more. They need more evidence to press charges.
Well, they need a confession.
Because they're like, this guy is on the loose.
Also, why? That's the biggest thing. Why would this 17-year-old kid murder this? It doesn't make sense. And the truth is everyone believed it was him. Like, everyone believed he was involved. The cops, the Leal family, Gilbert's here, and he's like, I wanted to hurt him. Like, I would see him out riding his bike past our house. This man was free. He could hurt someone else. I wanted to be the one to hurt him.
And the computer forensics are so sure. They have the time he logged on and off that would have coincided with meeting Eddie. I mean, they have everything. So here's a part of the story they didn't tell us at the beginning. Rebecca Santiago said she was coming with her brother. So essentially, Eddie would have pulled up and met Rebecca's, quote, brother. And then there was like a kid on a bike who was Manuel and be like, yeah, follow me. And so that's what they sort of think happened. But Tony Perlato is a down bitch, and he's not quite done nailing this guy with all of his computer forensic evidence.
Finally, Perlato finds what he's looking for. Manuel logged on and off at the exact times that would allow him to go and meet Eddie in Cutting Park in the middle of the night.
What Manuel did was he disarmed Eddie, right? Because if Eddie pulled up and then just saw this random guy in a hoodie, it's a gang-filled area. He wouldn't have stopped. He would have just kept going. So he set him up. You know what I mean? To be like, oh, if I see this guy on a bike, there's an explanation for it and I will follow him. Yeah, the most damning piece of evidence that this guy found was an email that Manuel sent. And it turns out that Manuel went by the nickname of Tito. And he emailed a friend who lived in the neighborhood saying, hey, it's Tito. Here's a link to this Facebook profile I used to fuck with people. Well, it was Rebecca Santiago's Facebook profile. So he admitted that he was the person behind it and that he created Rebecca Santiago so he could do terrible things.
So now they have enough to arrest him, but the cops aren't really confident because though they have enough to arrest him, do they have enough for the state to make a case? And do they have enough to convince a jury? Because there was no motive. Manuel had no beef with Eddie. Manuel wasn't in a gang. Nothing happened between them. They start to look into not only the online relationship that Tito / Manuel / Rebecca had with Eddie, but also what he was doing with other people online.
Yeah, it turns out that Eddie was not the only person Manuel was talking to via Rebecca Santiago's profile. It turns out he had tried to bait 3 other young men into meeting up with what they thought was Rebecca Santiago, when in reality it was him with the intention of murdering them. And one of them is here. It's Corporal Ryan Cervantes, who is in the Marines, but stationed in Hawaii where he was being trained. And he was messaging with Rebecca thinking, holy shit, who is this beautiful girl in my hometown? Obviously, it was Manuel messaging him saying, come meet me out, not realizing that Ryan was stationed in Hawaii at the time. But Ryan's like, thank God.
Yeah, Ryan was like, honestly, I probably would have gone.
Yeah.
I mean, this woman, Rebecca, was like, tits McGee, gorgeous hair. He's like, if a girl was like, come fuck around in the park, he's going to go fuck around in the park. And Ryan is like, Eddie's story could have been my story. That was haunting.
Yeah. So basically, the entire prosecution's case hinged on computer forensics. And this made everyone nervous. But it turns out they didn't need to be, because when the jury deliberated, it was very quick. and they found Manuel guilty, and the judge sentenced him to life in prison. Now, because he was 17 when he committed this crime, the death penalty was not on the table, but life was, and he will spend the rest of his life in jail. They didn't tell us if he has the possibility of parole.
No, life without parole, which is very strange in California as a juvenile.
Yeah.
That's how hard they took this, which is great. And Mama Celia has her last moments talking about everything. And then Brother Gilbert tells us this.
He was slumped over in the driver's seat. His phone was on the floor next to where his hand would have fallen. And it had the numbers 911 dialed into it.
He knew he was in trouble.
Something was happening. I would be very curious to know what that last exchange was. I mean, the craziest part here is why? It's the motive. Why would Manuel do this? What was the point? And this is what it is. It was a thrill kill. We've only seen this a handful of times throughout the years that we've been doing this.
Yep.
He just wanted to know what it was like to murder someone, and he would have kept going if he hadn't been arrested. In fact, the police believed he was a serial killer in the making.
And you know, that seems really hyperbolic and like dramatic, if you will. But I was like, yeah, I believe, you know what I mean? It's like, wow.
Yeah. No.
But like, that is well within the realm of possibility, how maniacal this 17-year-old was.
Yeah.
And I'll get more into the stuff about his trial in a second. But that was not a dramatic statement at all, actually.
Yeah, I mean, especially given the fact that he was talking to more people, trying to lure them out. I mean, it's really fucking scary. And, you know, younger brother Gilbert says, I am determined to continue the legacy of my father and my brother, helping out the community, giving kids a safe space, keeping them off the street. I will carry that banner. And I think it's very admirable.
I need to make him proud. So one of the most important things to me right now is helping people who need it, just like he did. And through boxing, I feel like that's a really good way.
And Sergeant Bob Epps continues just to tear me apart. He said at the funeral, they all took off their nameplates and put it in with Eddie. He is torn up. I mean, there is something about that camaraderie of, you know, sharing sports and fun and what he was doing for the community. And he is one of the most emotional law enforcement officers we've seen. And we have actually seen quite a few.
Yeah.
When they, you know, when the job really gets to you, I mean, the job gets to us and we are so many versions removed. It was very sweet. And it was just all so senseless. And you're right. Every time someone loses their life, it is senseless. It is often motivated by greed.
Yep.
And a lot of time, ego in domestic violence situations. You just woke up one day and decided to take someone's son away and someone's brother away and a community leader away. Like, not that there's ever a reason for murder.
No, but it's sociopathic. That's the thing.
It's so scary. We have a lot of information not in the episode, both Joey and I, but I'm going to start off by saying at first, Manuel Guzman pled not guilty. Okay, how are you going to defend that? And his defense said the case was purely circumstantial and that they had no evidence that he was the one that fired the gun because there was a witness that said that the crime scene did not test positive for Guzman's DNA. What are you talking about? Like, what, his blood? Like, how is his DNA, if there's no fingerprints, which does not technically classify as DNA. What DNA are you talking about? That is an argument to me that doesn't hold water. But Guzman said some wild things in court, like he said he was possessed by demons. He said he was crazy. And though he originally said he was not guilty, he admitted in open court that he killed Eddie. So he eventually confessed in court.
Wow. Because, well, you know what's crazy is that he's not wrong. They cannot prove that he shot that gun. They don't have the gun. They never told us if they found the gun. They have proof that he lured him out there. They don't have proof that he pulled that trigger.
Right. But it's weird to say there's like no DNA evidence. You know what I mean? It's like there's rarely DNA evidence. It's usually ballistic evidence, which can be disputed a lot of the time. You know, it was just like a weird statement. It felt very like spinny. Like,
but I mean, the fact that he had, confessed in court.
Yeah.
Goodbye forever.
Joey and I both really wanted to know what happened to Papa Ralph.
Well, Papa Ralph and another man named Marcelino Corona were arrested for the 1982 murder of 20-year-old Richard Hernandez and the assault of Daniel Ontiveros. Now, it turns out that Papa Ralph's younger brother was also involved in this assault, but he was dead by the time that they got...
Did you see what his name was?
Yeah, it was Eddie. But initially they got a plea deal. But then the plea deal was taken off the table. I think I was a little confused. Can you tell me?
Yeah. So obviously, this crime, over 30 years later. So the they were taken into custody until their trial. They were arrested like a year before. And so then they gave them a plea deal. They gave Papa Ralph 6 years and they gave Marcelino 8 years for voluntary manslaughter. Marcelino is the one who actually stabbed Richard Hernandez, and Papa Ralph had the weapon of like a wooden stick. So that's why he got heavier charges. Well, here's what happened. This is really interesting. The judge had agreed to the plea deal, but then Richard Hernandez's relatives and friends were so pissed at the deal that he was only going to receive 6 years and Corona was going to get 8 years. And they were going to give credit for time served. So the family kicked up a fuss. They wrote letters. They wanted longer prison sentences. They were like, we don't care. This is 30 years ago. This was still our family member. And you're going to insult us with 6 years and 8 years? I don't care if they're old guys now. It doesn't matter. So the judge, in a really shocking turn, because this doesn't always happen, he did not approve the plea deal. But here's what he did. He agreed to the time, but he waived the credit for time served. So they had already been in prison for some time, and so they were like, you're going to start from scratch with the 6 and 8 years. Because the family felt like it was a slap in the face.
Yeah, I get it.
So the family actually then... They still felt that they wanted more time, but they were very grateful to the judge and for the court for even just hearing them out.
Yeah.
All they wanted was justice for their family, even over 30 years later. So judges usually don't do that. They don't go against what the DA says. Yeah. And he's like, you're right. So that was the deal within the plea deal. It was a little confusing because there were several articles and they were all dated very close together. So it was kind of hard to keep track of the timeline. But I'm a woman and my brain is much bigger than yours. Mm-hmm. So
yes.
So it actually ended up, the Hernandez family wrote this very beautiful, gracious letter. And, it all turned out to be okay. So Papa Ralph is still in prison because that was in 2019.
And it's wild because Gilbert says, my father thinks that part of the reason that Eddie died was karmic retribution for his involvement in this murder.
But it was interesting because we were joking about it at the beginning of the episode because they didn't really tell us what happened. That's why it was such a whiplash moment when it was like, oh, you really wanted to make sure your kids didn't get in trouble.
Yeah, and I don't believe that that's how karma works. I don't believe that God or whatever it is up there was like, oh, you took this life, I'm going to take your son. I don't think that that's how it works. But my heart breaks the most for Gilbert and Celia because truly they've lost half their family now.
Yep. I'm grateful that we're telling the story of a man. Of course, this is horrible, what happened. But it does happen to men too, is what I'm saying. We cover so many things that happen to women. The percentages, the numbers far supersede anything, but it does happen to men.
Everyone should be careful.
It can happen to men. It can happen in a gay situation. Yep. It can happen to anyone. So I'm not grateful we're covering the death of a man. You all know that's not what I mean.
No, of course.
I just mean that you all need to be safe. You need to be safe.
No one should be too comfortable online. You have to be vigilant about your safety, and you have to be vigilant about verifying. You just have to be. In this day and age, you have to be. And sometimes it is as simple as can you add me on Snap or Instagram?
FaceTiming.
And send me. And if they are weird about it, goodbye.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Yeah. And they say that 10% of dating profiles are fake. Now, that might not seem like a lot, but think of swiping 10
No, that's
people,
a lot.
And one of them is going to be a fake. Now, how do you spot a fake profile?
Usually they're not verified, or usually there's like a pixelated picture, but I mean, it doesn't matter. I always make people verify.
Yeah.
Every once in a while I forget, but for the most part I do.
Just, listen, if you're in the world of online dating, and if that's what you want to be doing, you should feel safe. But there's ways to spot a fake profile. Like, when was the profile made? Was it made like 4 days ago? Even 4 months ago? Is, lack of personal information,
Sure.
Being really cagey, how much content they have. Also, remember, you can reverse image search.
I do it all
if
the
they've
time.
taken that profile out of some stock picture, reverse image search. Also, you do this. You'll say, like, take a picture holding up the number 4.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Hold up 3 fingers.
And this is in no way at all victim blaming, because also this was 2011. Eddie was just doing what every young person does.
Yeah, I've been catfished a million times.
Just remember, I say this all the time. Be that crazy bitch.
Yep.
If something feels off, it is. Don't ask yourself any follow-up questions. Trust your gut. Your gut has figured shit out way before your brain has had a chance to catch up. And sometimes your intuition is going to tell you stuff that your brain doesn't want to hear.
Well, also, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah, this poor family. Say something funny.
Well, I would love to stay here and keep chatting with you, but I just placed an order for a coffee, and the coffee shop is about 50 yards away. And so it's just going to take me a second to get there.
How long will it take you to get there? 5 minutes or 20 minutes by car or plane? I have no idea.
Google, it's either over here or over there. There's your choices. No yards, no meters, over here, over there. And that's cats.
Down, bitches. That is the end of our run of Web of Lies. I like this show, but it makes me even more scared to be online. But you should be scared to be online. But if you are online, go ahead and follow us at I Think Not Pod, or join our Facebook group, the I Think Not Podcast Discussion Facebook group. What else can they do to support us, Joey?
Yeah, you didn't get that title right, but I'm going to let it go this time. You can also follow us on YouTube. You can find us there at I Think Not Pod. We have weekly videos that drop if you want to watch us do this live-ish. Those drop every Friday, and if you could like, comment, subscribe, whatever the fuck these kids do, please go out there and do it. Parker makes some really funny edits.
He does.
You should check them out.
He really does. And don't forget, you all, this goes for us and any content creator you want. Of course, we would love you to join our Patreon and join us there, but there are so many ways you can support us for $0.00. Giving us a 5-star review on iTunes, following us on social media, liking our stuff on social media. Don't like it in your head. Like it there. Not for our ego, for the algorithm. Make a comment, share our story. There are so many ways that you can support us and bring other down bitches to our community of nonsense.
Yeah, suggest us to your cousin Pluki. She might like it.
Listen to us around the dinner table. What lovely conversation. Until next time, I love you, down bitches.
I love you, Ella Marie Marsh, and I love you, DB, so much, baby.
I love you, Joey. Bye.
Did somebody say rammed up?